Welcome back, everybody. And so I know I've been on a couple rants so far on the ESPN Odell Beckham Jr. interview, the Earl Thomas stuff, and then the NFL rules. That's 3 straight rants. So I'm going to go into something that's more light, something that I think is going to be a bit fun for you guys to think about. There's one team in the NFL that nobody's talking about. Still. Nobody's talking about them still. I was the only one saying they're going to be competitive. They're going to be better than than their entire division. One team had a holdout, and they have not looked good with that player out. And which now kind of gives it away. But the Cincinnati Bengals are the team nobody's talking about that can beat anybody in this league. And let me tell you why. First of all, they beat up on the Ravens at home. They beat the Colts in a high-scoring game defensively. They lost to the Panthers, but that's Cam Newton and Christian McCaffrey. They ran all over them, and that defense did not look great. That defense was also suffering from injuries. That was the first game without Joe Mixon as well. Week 4, they get in a shootout with the Ravens. They beat them in a shootout. Week 5, they beat the Dolphins defensively, and they scored 2 defensive touchdowns, and Mixon also ran all over them. So what's going to change this week against Pittsburgh? Nothing. Pittsburgh is not going to be able to run on them. James Conner, I'm sorry, is not a good running back. Let's be real. James Conner is not a good running back. But the Bengals, if you look at this, and I'm going to pull up their schedule right now, the Bengals right now, they're 4-1. They've beat 2 teams with a winning record, and they've beat 1 team. They've lost to 1 team with a winning record, but they've also beat 2 teams with a winning record, and have beat 2 teams with a losing record. Right? Okay, so they face Pittsburgh this week. They can win that game. They are going to win that game. Okay? They're going to win that game. Next week they have a Kansas City on a Sunday night. We'll see what happens. But I think Kansas City's defense, decent enough. Bengals could win that game. They could. They could hand Kansas City their first loss, but Kansas City's also offense is starting to go down a bit. Bengals defense, I'm telling you, is a shut-down unit. They have Perfect back for this game. Then they play the Buccaneers, who have not looked great. After their bye week, they play the New Orleans Saints in Cincinnati. That's where you want to play them. Then they play the Ravens in Baltimore. Then it's Cleveland in Cincy. Denver in Cincy, where you want to play them. Then you go to L.A., which is basically home field advantage for you. Then you play Oakland in Cincinnati. It'll be bitter cold up there at this point in the year. Then you play the Browns in Cleveland, and then you play Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. Tell me how many games they'll win out of that. I'll tell you right now, they'll beat Pittsburgh. I'm going to give them a loss against Kansas City. And you know what? I'm going to give them a win against Kansas City, because I think they can beat Kansas City. They'll beat the Buccaneers, and I think Drew Brees will get to a slow start. They'll beat the Saints. Defensively, they'll do that in the cold. And they have a better, in my opinion, the run game is going to be good. I'm actually going to give that one to the Saints. I'm wrong there. Then you have the Ravens. I'll give that one to the Ravens, but then they're going to win 2 straight at home against the Browns and the Broncos. Now they're 9-3. I'll have the Chargers beat them. Then they're going to beat the Browns, and they're going to beat the Raiders and the Browns. They're at 11-4. Now all they got to do is beat Pittsburgh. I think they lose to Pittsburgh. So 11-5. I've had it from the beginning. They're going to be 11-5. This is the team that I've said it's going to be. Now, if they lose to the Chiefs, they're 10-6. Boo-hoo. I don't care. But the Bengals are a team that can beat anybody. They can beat anybody. And we've seen it. They're a team that doesn't quit like they have in the past. They have quit. They used to be a quitting team. This team is not a quitting team. And Jesse Bates, my goodness, has emerged as one of the better free safeties in the game. He just has. And who on Pittsburgh? First of all, if everyone's healthy that's available to play on both sides of the field, who do you have faith in more? Bengals defense or the Steelers defense. I have the Bengals defense every time. Who do you have more faith in? Bengals offense right now or the Steelers offense right now? I have it in the Bengals offense. Why? Because Joe Mixon. That's why. I think the Bengals will win this division. I think they could go far in the playoffs. I think they challenge New England, which sounds crazy, but it's true. That's a fact. New England's not that great right now. So we're going to probably, I hope, can win this thing. I'm confident. 4-1. Let's go. The NFC East is a disaster. That was an abrupt transition. But it's a disaster. And I'm going to tell you why it's a disaster. Because the Giants are hot trash, getting compacted and burnt. The Dallas Cowboys are no better than the Giants. And the Redskins are just fraudulent. Meanwhile, the Eagles just aren't healthy and they're not playing well. No team in the NFC East is going to the Super Bowl this year, and none of them are going to go to the championship game this year. But you got Cowboys fans sitting there bloviating, puffing their chests out, saying, "We're the best in the division." You might be the best in your division, but you're still a one and done in the playoffs. Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. But you probably got the Cowboys fans out there now saying, "Oh, but we're better than everybody. We're better than everyone in our division." You can say that, but it's not true. I mean, as of right now, we're at week 6. We're 2 weeks away from the halfway point of the season and the trade deadline. Dallas Cowboy fans, if there are any Cowboys fans that watch this show, I want you to comment on this video. Calling you out. I want you to comment on this video. I'm calling you out. Who do you think the Cowboys could beat? Let's just take Tampa out of the playoff picture right now and replace them with the Cowboys. Who do you think Dallas would beat? Do they beat the Panthers? No, I don't think so. Do they beat the Redskins? No. Okay, let's put them in the division. Okay. Let's put them as the division winner. Do they beat the Panthers in their building? No. Do they beat the Bears? No. Do they beat the Rams? Do they beat the Saints? No way, Jose. So what are you talking about? You're a Super Bowl contender. I don't want to hear that. You have the worst quarterback in your conference. Tell me I'm wrong. Oh, but Carson Wentz is worse. Oh, yeah, Mr. Super Bowl champion quarterback who hurt himself is worse than the bum that resides in Dallas. I'll tell you right now, I'll go through it. I'll go through it. And I know I'm going to talk about the Eagles in this, but we have time, and I'm going to go on about the Cowboys right now because they're a disaster. I'd rather have Jimmy G than Dak Prescott. I'd rather have Josh Rosen. I'd rather have Russell Wilson. I'd rather have Jared Goff. So I'd rather have the entire NFC West quarterbacks over Dak Prescott. I'd rather have Wentz. I'd rather have Smith. I'm not going to say Eli Manning because he's already out the door. I'd rather have Matt Ryan. I'd rather have Cam Newton. I'd rather have Drew Brees. Honestly, I'd rather have Jameis Winston. And I'd rather have the entire NFC North. So I don't want to hear that Dak Prescott's a top quarterback in this league. I get people trying to say that he's a top 10. Are you kidding me? What you saw Sunday night was what he was, a turnover machine. Do you need me to pull up the stats right now? Because I'll do it. And it's embarrassing. It's extremely embarrassing if you're a Cowboy fan, and I hope you are embarrassed because you have a disaster at quarterback. And this week they play the Jaguars, so we get to see who's an even worse disaster. The fact of the matter is, through 5 weeks of the NFL season, Dak has not thrown 1,000 yards yet. I'm willing to bet that's the worst in the league if you started week 1. Actually, I guarantee you it's the worst in the league if you started week 1. Blake Bortles has thrown 1,500 yards. 8 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. Dak has thrown 5 and 4. For those of you who want to argue that Dak Prescott's better than Carson Wentz, in 3 games, Carson Wentz has thrown as many touchdowns as Dak has in 5. And he's also thrown 3 less interceptions, so shut up. You can do the math, because I said 5 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, which means Carson Wentz has thrown 5 touchdowns and a single interception in 3 games. How about we talk about the best guy? How about we talk about that? Passing yards. Wow, okay. Just letting you know, Dak doesn't even appear in the top 20 as far as passing yards are concerned. Jared Goff has 1,727 passing yards. He also has 12 touchdowns. Wow. Okay. Patrick Mahomes only has 2 interceptions, and he's thrown 4 touchdowns. Ooh. Blake Bortles shows up in the top 20. Deshaun Watson shows up in the top 20 in touchdowns with 8. Andy Dalton with 12 interceptions. Dak is 14th with 4. He's thrown more than Eli Manning and Joe Flacco. Are you kidding me, Dallas fans? Get out of here with this BS. Get out of here. I don't want to hear it. Oh, but he's got Ezekiel Elliott who has 480 yards rushing. Yeah, that's the only thing he has. Now, all that Cowboy rant, the Cowboy rant over, all that just proves to you that the Eagles are the number 1 team in this division, and they will continue to be. That defense still has to get healthy. Tim Jernigan's not on the field. Rodney McLeod will get healthy. He's not on the field either. They are not healthy, the Eagles. And I don't want to hear the same excuses for the Cowboys because they're only missing 1 dude. The Eagles are missing more. And they've also lost some pieces because they couldn't afford them. But they also got a lot of guys tied down. Meanwhile, the Cowboys are questioning whether or not Dak's their franchise quarterback, which they should because he's not. So, yeah. How do you like that, Dallas fans? You're the reason. I mean, let's just face it. You're the reason your division's a disaster. You call yourself America's team, yet every year you have a losing record. Not in 2016. You were 0-1 in the playoffs. Shut up. Losing record. You're not one of the best teams in the league. You never will be considered as such. It's because you're a joke of a franchise and your owner can't handle people taking the spotlight from him. Until he goes away, this team's not going anywhere. He keeps making wrong decisions. And Dak Prescott is the epitome of a wrong decision that was made by the ownership. Anyway, we're going to move on to the next segment. Wow, I said that fast. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next segment. The best of Week 5. Stay tuned.